My humble pranams at the lotus feet of our beloved Bhagavan Baba and Om Sai Ram to one and all. We welcome you to this young adult webinar. And we are very grateful with us to have our guest this afternoon, Brother Shivendra Kumar. So after 18 months of lockdown and related challenges, it has been difficult for most of us to feel happy and peaceful. So South Africa is blessed with the opportunity to listen and interact with the former International Young Adult Coordinator, Dr. Shivendra Kumar of Australia, on the topic being happy and peaceful. Brother Shivendra has served Swami and his organization in various capacities, which include the Deputy National President of the Sai organization in Australia, International Young Adult Coordinator, and National Young Adult Coordinator. He coordinated in 2016 the Sri Satya Sai World Youth Festival and introduced programs such as the Satya Sai Youth Leadership Program and various current young adults programs such as the Sadhana of Love, Love All, and Serve All, amongst others, during this term. Brother Shivendra has a PhD in engineering and runs his own consulting practice in Sydney. We're indeed honored and very grateful to have you with us this afternoon, Brother Shivendra Kumar. So I welcome you, dear devotees, and Brother Shivendra. Sai Ram.
Offering my loving pranams at the divine lotus feet of our beloved Bhagwan. Dear brothers and sisters, Om Shri Sai Ram. I also like to greet Brother Suresh and Sister Priscilla and the various leaders of the organization who are with us in this event tonight, including the Y coordinators, Sister Narina and Brother Sahil. And also I'd like to acknowledge the office bearers who have been serving in Swami's mission in the past years, and those who are at this point in time have taken up responsibilities and are committed to furthering Swami's mission. So Sai Ram to all of you. I bring to you greetings not only from myself, but also from my family and also the Australian Sai family who are very excited about this offering. And in fact, we have a presentation that's currently happening in Australia. We have an offering for 96 days for leading up to Swami's 96th birthday. And today we've been blessed to be able to listen to Vijayamma. And she's been sharing a lot of stories from Swami's childhood with us. So dear brothers and sisters, it's great to be addressing you all. It's not the first time I'm addressing many of you, so delighted to be back, I should say. The topic of this discussion, let's get straight into it, is always be happy and peaceful. And when we started discussing this talk, I thought, okay, it's not just nice for me to be able to share this talk. I think Swami's mission is much bigger than a few individuals who get invited to speak. So I requested the young adults to give me 4 other people who could present with me. And I was blessed by Bhagwan to have 4 amazing people who have put this presentation together with me, and you'll get to hear from them. You'll get to hear their perspectives. And I've learned a lot through the process, and we'll try to share that with all of you. The discourse we chose was the 2007 World Youth Conference discourse, the second discourse that Swami gave, with the title, Always Be Happy and Peaceful. It is a significant discourse because that was the last youth conference, of course, that was there in Bhagwan's physical presence. But it was also the last discourse Bhagwan gave to the young adults. So if you really think of it to say, okay, if there was a message for the youth and what was the last thing Swami spoke in a public environment for the young adult, that discourse it is. And you can take it lightly, but as we have been going over this discourse, we have realized that there's stuff there that Swami talks about which is relevant today. And like Swami's discourses, I mean, stuff he has said in 1950s about controlling the mind is relevant today. Swami talked about selling and desires in the 1960s. It's the biggest thing that can save the environment right now. So, but what Bhagwan speaks about is always very relevant. But I think the 2007 discourse, if we were to look at young adults, those who are just turning into young adults or those who are now on the verge of leaving the young adult group, like people like me, it's a very profound discourse. And as I said, it's the last discourse Swami gave. Now, I wasn't there physically for that, and I'll tell you that story shortly. But before I come to that, Bhagwan, because I could not be there, Bhagwan gave two very strong signs that he is with us, for me personally. Number one, I could not attend because my wife was not very well during that 2007 World Youth Conference. In fact, the date that the World Youth Conference was happening, she was undergoing some surgery. But interestingly, Bhagwan in his discourse mentions that he mentions the line in his discourse, and that's the discourse we're covering now. That was the third last line that he spoke about, which was, do not become anxious if your child or wife suffers from illness. Have faith, everything will be all right. And his words were true. Everything was all right. I was worrying for nothing. But that was the reason why I could not be there. And I was trying to keep in touch with so many of the other young adults who were in Prashanthi. Of course, that time we did not have WhatsApp chat groups, etc. So it was not that we were getting live updates. But we kept in touch, and it was August, a few weeks after the World Youth Conference had finished. Bhagwan gave me a dream, and in the dream, he ran through the entire World Youth Conference. And it was when I started interacting with some of the youth who had returned from the World Youth Conference, I realized that the dream was actually so relatable to what had happened in the actual World Youth Conference. So Bhagwan did his bit in making sure that I was part of that event in a way that he wanted me to be a part of. And then I went through all the discourses with the young adults. We had a number of discussions, and we still continue to talk about this discourse. So it was a historic event. And I think the best way to start this presentation is if we take you to the World Youth Conference. So I'm now going to invite Brother Sahil, who is going to launch us into a time machine and take us back to the 2007 World Youth Conference. Brother Sahil.
Thank you, Brother Shivendra. Our most loving pranams at the lotus feet of our Divine Master and loving Lord, Bhagavan Sri Satya Sai Baba, and Om Sai Ram embodiments of love. Sisters and brothers, although we're still in a time when travel is limited, we know that our mind and imagination is definitely not on any form of lockdown, nor needs vaccination to travel, right? So are you ready to go on an exciting journey with me? Let's take a few minutes to do some time travel, like Brother Shivendra mentioned, to a place we'd all love to be at this present moment. Yes, this abode of supreme love and peace, Prashanthi Nilayam. So let us close our eyes, put on one of our brightest South African smiles, and take a deep breath in. And as we begin to exhale, picture ourselves at one of the most historical moments in our lives, at the entrance gate of Prashanthi Nilayam at the start of the 2007 World Youth Conference. Let us see ourselves standing there with a spirit and heart that is so ready to be filled with Swami's divine love and pure inspiration at a conference that Swami himself had lovingly organized. Let us take in the beauty of the buildings around us, the hustle and bustle of the locals, the light warm air as we briskly walk to leave our shoes aside and rushing into the divine energy field of Kulwan Hall, eagerly waiting to take our seat, while we appreciate the ideal view of the dais and our dearest Swami when he makes his appearance. As we soak in the ambience of this experience and opportunity, let us begin to open our conference booklets from our bags and prepare our consciousness with much excitement for the engagements to follow on being ideal Sai youth, messengers of Sai, and living in accordance with our true nature, and of course, leading a happy and peaceful life. In other words, focusing on the themes that will transpire over this 3-day conference. My mind, however, doesn't forget to think about what could possibly be on all the canteen menus, as I believe Swami has handpicked each and every meal and dessert by himself for this conference. The atmosphere is filled with devotion and bliss. An array of delegates from all around the world, dressed with orange scarves, begin marching into Kulwan Hall like Sai soldiers, diverse, yet united as one. The proceedings begin with an inaugural speech, official welcome, and our dearest Bhagwan's opening divine discourse, which sets the tone for what's going to be an incredible 3 days ahead. Swami then gifts the female youth 3 beautiful saris in sea green, maroon, and beige, which he expects to be worn on each day of the conference. The workshops, as Swami watches over, is so inspiring and transformational, with topics spanning from the role of young adults in society, remembering Swami all the time, and to what it really is to be a messenger of Sai. Cheer and bliss fill the air as we walk through the streets during the youth rally, singing, clapping, with faces filled with smiles. This is followed by a trip to the indoor sports stadium, where a basketball match takes place. The ultimate umpire, our dear Swami, being present and blessing both the players and the ball. Swami smiles throughout the game and claps whenever there is a goal. And this reminds us of when Swami said, "Life is a game, play it." After the conclusion of the conference, many young adult delegates are preparing to leave when a message comes around saying that all young adults present should actually attend afternoon darshan. A lot of contemplation and hesitation arises, as we do not wish to be delayed for our departure. But we have also come to learn that when Swami calls, you drop everything and just go. Just after 3 p.m., while seated for darshan and still receiving delegate seating, the Sevadals come by and lovingly hand out Swami's robe. Yes, Swami's divine orange robe to each and every one of us. Sitting in awe and soaking in Swami's love, we extend our arms and eagerly receive such a precious gift. Tears, gratitude, joy, and amazement are only some of the common feelings that spring in our hearts as we reminisce on the fact that Swami is our ultimate guide and planner, willing everything in divine time. A heartwarming climax indeed to this World Youth Conference. And little did we know that this would be the last youth conference in his physical presence. As we gently begin to open our eyes and maintain our joyful smile, let us reflect on one of the key themes from the conference, on never forgetting God.
So we'll get going with the first section, which is never forget God. And I invite Sister Aranya to take us through that, through the first section. Sister, over to you.
Never forget God. So, why is this topic important? And I've pondered on this for a while, and I've come to the conclusion after a lot of love and grace from Swami that the reason is because God is our true best friend. And Swami has said this to us many times. So, do we really understand this and believe this? And what happens when we forget? So, just to share a bit of a personal experience, I was afforded the grace of Swami to be able to study medicine abroad. So, I studied in Mauritius, and being just young, stayed out of school, very excited to leave home and to study. And once I got there, I realized that the loneliness started creeping in because we forget that Swami is always with us, right? And he's listening to us. And so without your parents and this know that comfort that's there with you, you forget that Swami is your ultimate mother and father. And so having done that, loneliness started to creep and a little bit of doubt. But then I started to tell myself maybe I should read some of Swami's books, and maybe it'll bring me some sort of solace. And that's what I started to do. So I started to read Swami's books in being in this state of loneliness and sadness. So I started to read Swami's books, but then it started changing from loneliness to sadness to a bit of an irritation. So now I started fighting with Swami, and I said, Swami, but you know what? Everything I started reading, Swami was materializing Vibhuti for his students. So I said, but Swami, I am also your student. Why can't you materialize some Vibhuti for me? And this was going on for a while this morning that I was reading Swami's book. And then I let the emotions get the better of me. And I just slammed my book shut. And lo and behold, there was a sprinkle of vibhuti over my shirt and my coat that I was using that day. And in that moment, I started to cry because I realized that Swami is definitely with us. Um, and he's showing us that love constantly. So in that moment I realized that we should never forget God, because Swami is constantly with us. So just to elaborate on this, let us hear what Swami has to say about this topic.
God is alone.
సంపదలొచ్చిన గాని హెచ్చుగా సంపదలొచ్చిన గాని ఏనుగు గుర్రములెక్కిన గాని పిచ్చోడని పేరొచ్చిన గాని ప్రియముతో పెద్దలు పొగిడిన గాని దేవుని మరువకురా ఉన్నది దైవమే ఒక్కడురా దేవుని మరువకురా ఉన్నది దైవమే ఒక్కడురా.
Whatever prosperity and wealth you may get, you may have all the comforts and all the luxuries available to you. You may become mad and lose all sense, but under all circumstances, never give up God.
So Swami went on further to say to the young adults, students, you study, you get a job, you get married, and you even have children. But you should never forget God. Your life is no life if you forget God. You may be a great man, you may become a prime minister, you maybe even become a president. But if you forget God, you become a zero. Never give up that supreme principle. Take every chance to be near God. This is the main spiritual pursuit of mankind. Then only human life will be prosperous and meaningful. Now, we've seen Brother Sahil take us through a time machine to let us experience the conference. Just working back from the conference, there was a doctor, Dr. Samuel Sandwich, that gave some important points as to what we should consider in the practical aspect, because I know sometimes it can be difficult. So in 2007, during this World Youth Conference in Prashanthi, the last one that took place in the physical presence of our beloved Bhagavan Baba, one of the speakers, Dr. Samuel Sandwich, like I was mentioning, gave some important points. And this is what he had to say. And I thought that it was simple, but yet very, very practical. And he said the answer to that is, remember Swami. And you may think this is so simple, but how is it done? So he says, Swami gives us an extraordinary gift. Its value is immeasurable and worth more than all the gold and diamonds in the world. Now, Swami gives himself to each one of us, placing himself in our hearts. We carry him with us at all times. We are never separate from him. So Swami actually lives in our hearts. And so we are all here because we have experienced this miracle. And now we have to care for this treasure. So how do we go about nurturing and caring for this treasure that we all have? So Swami says, he went on to say, in order to keep Swami's love alive and see that it grows day by day with added luster, we have to remember him. It's as simple as that. Now, when we go to Prashanthi, that is simple. Why? Because we are constantly at that time physically near. Well, now we constantly in the presence of Swami, talking about him, reading about him, absorbing him, loving him. So it's hard for us to forget Swami. But be aware, once we leave the premises or once we leave the bounds of Prashanthi Nilayam, the world is very treacherous and the mind can be very tricky. Now, Swami has alluded to the mind, and he affectionately tells us that the mind is like a mad monkey. Now, which then even worse, he went on to say that it's like a drunken mad monkey. Now, even worse. So the natural inclination of the mind is to look to the world and get attached to these sense objects. And so when we get attached to these objects, we can easily forget Swami, that he's living in our heart. Now, because the mind deceives us like this, Swami lovingly reminds us to remember him. Can you imagine that? The Lord asking us to remember him and see him in every being. The Bhagavad Gita tells us that we should be aware of him in every moment of existence. And his teachings is simply to remember him, and remember him. Now, I know that as young adults, sometimes this can be very tricky, and we have so much going on in our lives that every day we multitasking. Just looking at it today, we were working with so many different things as national young adult coordinators, and then to be on this wonderful meeting and satsang with you all today. So I understand that sometimes in our busy schedules it can be difficult for us to remember Swami, or there's that slight doubt or that slight time that we might forget him. So these are some of the simple tips that I have used, and that helps me practically, and maybe this would help you also. So I think whenever we think of Swami, whenever we do something, we should think of it as pleasing Swami. Forget about what Swami will do for us in return and whatever grace we'll be getting from it. But do whatever activity we have to do, and do it so that we are pleasing Swami, and that alone will give us so much of peace and love. And that way, every activity within your day is done pleasing Swami, and then telling Swami that he is the doer. So telling Swami he's the doer and then pleasing Swami is one way that we will never forget Swami, because in everything you do, while you're sweeping, while you're reading, while you're cooking, you just think of Swami and say, Swami, I'm doing this to please you, and I'm not the doer. I'm the instrument and you are the doer. I think that's one of the two practical techniques that I've tried to always try and always remember Swami with me. And I hope that you have taken some good feedback from this. And always remember that Swami loves us. He's there with us. And he is constantly guiding us through this journey we call life. So I'll now hand you over to Brother Shivendra. Thank you, and loving Sai Ram.
Thank you, sis. That was a really, really good summary of that particular section. Now, Swami is the master of breaking down very complex concepts into short 3, 4, 5 words, right? Here, what he's done is he's taken this concept that probably defines the entire the mission of our life, and put it down into 3 words: never forget God. And he simplified it to the point where you're listening. I guess if you're listening to it, you'll be thinking, okay, did I come to the World Youth Conference to learn about this? But he's put it in a way where I think it just takes these very complex concepts in a way that makes it into these small pills that we can, I guess, take once a day, three times a day, 4 times a day, whatever prescription you're on. But being able to then think and say, okay, yeah, we could do this, we could do this. And as sister was talking, Aranya was speaking, I mean, you could see that the topic was getting a little bit more complex, and then there's so much more that comes out of it, right? So this is like squeezing nectar out of something, and it keeps coming, and that's what Bhagwan's love is all about. And talking about never forget God, the good question is, if you were to ask yourself why, I mean, the simple answer there is God never forgets you. I'm assuming I think it's mid-afternoon in South Africa right now, and I'm pretty sure the sun came out today, right? Like it's there. I'm pretty sure that you're still all breathing air, and I don't have to export any bit of air from Australia. Neither do I have to import air from South Africa to Australia. It's all there. The plants are all growing. They're all happy. If you look outside, the vegetables are there in the shops, in the market. So it's interesting that all these things keeps happening. So Bhagwan says he practices what he preaches, right? So he is living by example. He's telling us that, you know, I'm not forgetting you. He sent us to this planet. We're born, we're growing, we need to be nourished, we need to be looked after, we need air to breathe, water to drink. He's providing all of that. He doesn't make an excuse. And even if he's busy helping the Australian cricket team beat South Africa, or the South African rugby team beat the Wallabies, it doesn't really matter where he is, whose prayer he's answering. He makes sure that the needs of each one of us gets taken care of. So that's Bhagwan. Now, if we now frame it back to say, never forget God, are we meant to do all of these things? No. That's not what Swami is asking. Right, Swami is saying that we should always remember him. And the simplest way to do is to remove the things that take us away from him, right? And that's what this course was about. So he says, if anything makes you forget God, remove it. So subtract that. But if there is something that makes you remember God, and there'll be two of those things we will be covering in the talk going forwards, what he advises is you multiply those. Such a simple equation, right? Remove anything that makes you forget God. It could be bad company, it could be bad habits, it could be just anything that makes you forget him. Convert and fill that space up with the multiplication of all the good things in life which makes you remember God, be it time with the youth group, be it bhajan singing, be it service projects, whatever it is. So the summary of the discourse is that you can forget everything, but you should never forget God. And it is really a powerful statement, because knowing that there is someone trusted, right? And the word trusted is there, who's got your back all the time. And he has got your back on the many difficult occasions, many challenges that you may have faced, should give you confidence. It should reduce your worries. It should toughen you. It should allow you to pursue your potential. Bhagwan says in that towards the end of that section of the discourse that we all are zeros, right? So if you put one next to us, we become heroes. So by not forgetting God, by remembering God all the time, we as zeros, and we could be 1 0, we could be 2 zeros, and our lives could be 4 zeros, right? But it's 0. But by putting that 1 in front allows us to multiply our worth, multiply our contribution to the universe, and be able to do all the things that we were sent out. But one thing to always keep in mind is, right, sometimes we forget God because we get busy with work, we get busy with family, we get busy with so many other things. One thing very important to keep in mind, and a question that I'll leave with you guys, are you, or do you ever use what Bhagwan has given you as an excuse not to think of him, and as an excuse to not to do his work, right? So if he's given you work, he's given you family, he's given you opportunity to study in the best university in the world, are you then using those as reasons not to think of him, not to thank him, not to be able to participate in events? Because if you are, it's a time to think about it now. Don't drop your studies, don't drop your family, don't drop your career, but just think to say, what can I do? And it doesn't always have to be that you have to come out and do surveys. Sometimes it's just remembering that I'm able to think of God. And the concept that I recently became aware of, someone from Prashanthi shared this, is to say, if our life, every millisecond of our life was a time capsule that's running on a conveyor belt, and we are filling this capsule with our thoughts, imagine if we're able to fill some of these capsules with the name of Swami, with love for Swami. That capsule gets filled up with love for Swami, and then gets taken on the conveyor belt forever. It's locked in our life, in our history of our life forever. And that is there for us to keep and cherish, to say, hey, that much of our life we filled up with Swami. No one can take that away from us. So never forgetting God, if we really think of it, is extremely powerful. And always remember that if we have him as number one, the one in front of the 0, everything in life comes together. So now I'll hand over to Brother Yastil and ask him to now cover of purifying your mind by Nam Smarana, which is the next step of us remembering God. So over to you, brother.
भजन बिना सुख शांति नहीं, हरि नाम बिना आनंद नहीं, हरि नाम बिना आनंद नहीं, ईश बिना प्रज्ञान नहीं दय धर्म बिना सत्कर्म नहीं भगवान बिना कोई अपना नहीं हरि नाम बिना परमात्मा नहीं हरि नाम बिना परमात्मा नहीं हरि नाम बिना आनंद नहीं हरि नाम बिना आनंद नहीं हरि भजन बिना हरि भजन बिना सुख शांति नहीं
Hari bhajana bina sukha shanti nahi. Hari naam bina ananda nahi. O mind, understand that there is no peace without chanting the glory of the Lord, which is itself bliss. This beautiful bhajan, which we are all accustomed to, is truly a great place to begin when understanding the part the mind has to play in our journey here on earth. And I'm sure we've all experienced these ups and downs that this material existence has exerted on us throughout our lifetimes. And recently, in the recent past, many of us have been through numerous challenges and various types of challenges. Although there's good news, and there's certainly a remedy for all this discomfort and all these challenges that we face. So when we break a bone, we rush to the doctor and trust in him to heal our physical body. In the very same manner, when our souls are craving happiness, Swami is the divine doctor, whose name is the medicine that will ignite our being into experiencing and connecting with this innate happiness, which is our true nature. This is known as bliss. Why then do we face such challenges to begin with, if Swami is always a call away? Why do we experience the sorrow and despair? So Swami says, there's one cause for all your sorrows as well as your joy and happiness. That is your mind. Many people have an adverse view of the mind. They call it a monkey mind. But it is not monkey mind. It is mankind. It is a source of kindness and joy. If you only keep our mind in a proper state, nothing bad can happen to us. Consider the mind divine, then you will always be happy. I'm sure you're all familiar with this concept of the monkey mind, and we've heard this before, but if you could just take a step back for a moment and visualize this monkey in its inquisitive, fidgety nature, so restless. Swami says that the mind doesn't have to behave that way. We have the means to train our mind so that it is not a monkey mind, but it is mankind. And in support of this, the Lord gives us an analogy, and I quote, "A bar of iron sinks in water, but beat it hollow to a vessel, and it will float merrily and even carry some weight. So too man's mind sinks easily in the sea of sense. Beat it hollow, hammering it with the name of the Lord, and it will float safely on the sea of troubles." End quote. So how do we train this monkey to serve the Lord and not our senses? Sister Aranya has mentioned that the mind is a mad monkey, not only a mad monkey, but a drunken mad monkey. But I know of a monkey who is perhaps the greatest of devotees of all time, and is far from this disastrous description of the undisciplined mind. Do you have any idea who this monkey could be? This monkey is none other than Sri Hanuman. Let us just pause for a moment to consider Hanuman in all his might and his glory. But physically, Hanuman is a monkey. If only our monkey minds could be transformed from the fidgety, restless, unsettled monkey we visualized to the almighty, unconquerable Lord Hanuman, how blissful and content will we be then? If we could take a peek into the glory of Hanuman and his love for Lord Ram, Swami enacted the following episode. On one such Ram Navami day, Swami materialized a pearl necklace that Sita had gifted to Hanuman at the time of Rama's coronation. Rama was distributing various gifts to members in the assembly, but somehow he seemed to skip Hanuman. Sita was troubled by this apparent indifference, so she took out a pearl necklace that she was wearing and offered it to Hanuman. While receiving this necklace, Hanuman gave it a suspicious look. He then placed the necklace near one of his ears to check whether one of the individual pearls were emitting some sound. He appeared to examine every pearl in the necklace, and once in a while he would bite a pearl. Mother Sita was shocked by this behavior. Was Hanuman proving, after all, that he was a monkey? She demanded an explanation from Hanuman for what he was doing, and with great humility, Hanuman replied, "Mother, for me the name of Rama is supreme. An object is worthless if it does not resound with the name of Rama. Everything that is saturated with the Rama principle will always chant the name of Rama." Hanuman plucked a hair from his body and offered it to Rama. When Sita took it near her ear, she could hear clearly the chant of Rama's name. This was the way Hanuman proved to the world how intense and true his devotion really was. Such was the intensity with which Hanuman devoted every hair of his being to the Lord. How can we reach such great heights in our spiritual endeavors, you ask? Swami answered this question in the beginning. Hari bhajana bina sukha shanti nahi. Hari naam bina ananda nahi. O mind, understand that there is no peace without chanting the glory of the Lord, which is itself bliss.
Thank you, bro. And Bhagavan so beautifully, right? This bhajan that we always sing was pretty much the theme for this discourse, Hari Bhajan Bina Sukh Shanti Nahi, right? So it is always be happy and peaceful. And in that bhajan it says that if you are chanting the name of Hari, chanting the name of Lord, you will always be happy and peaceful. So beautifully he brings that in. But the monkey example that Bhagwan uses is classic, right? He brings it in almost in every discourse that he talks to the students or to the youth, and it's something that's very relatable, right? The mind is so interesting. So, and I think the session would have started through that introduction session, we would have been transported straight from wherever you are right now all the way to Prashanthi. But if, for example, right now, if I were to play a song from let's say the movie Chennai Express, I'm pretty sure you would be transported to a scene from wherever that song was recorded. So it's interesting how the mind is able to go leaps and bounds, does not care about all the COVID testing and the quarantining that we have to do, right? It has got its own speed. And just imagining now, if we're able to tame this mind and control it and direct it to where we needed to do, there's so much power in it, right? And we saw that with Hanuman, he was able to win the Lord and have such close proximity to the Lord just by able to control how he interacted. But the argument that can come when we look at Hanuman is to say, look, he was saintly, and monkeys don't have the pressures that we have, right? So monkeys do not have all the societal pressures, the family pressures, the career and friendships that you and I have. So yeah, you can take Hanuman's example, but it's not realistic. It's not applying to someone who is a young adult in 2021. Well, Ramayana gives us that example, right? And we know the story of Ratnakar. Ratnakar was a character from Ramayana. In early days, he used to rob and kill people and then feed his family, until one day he had an interaction with Lord Narada. And when he had this interaction with Lord Narada, he asked him the question to say, what are you doing, etc. And then he came to the realization. And at that point in time, he said, okay, I'm going to leave all this. There's a long story that I would not cover now. But what he did was he said, okay, I'm going to leave all of this and I'm going to go and chant the name of the Lord. And he didn't know how to chant. He's living in the forest, not educated. And by the time he even got to a place to sit down to take Lord's name, he had even forgotten what he had to say. So this guy started instead of saying Rama, he kept saying Mara, Mara, Mara. And he did that for several days. And the Lord came in front of him and gave him the vision. So it tells us that we do not need any qualifications as such to be able to get that vision of the Lord, to be able to get that proximity. God is there. He likes that devotion part, and as long as we are able to have that feeling when taking His name, we're able to transform that. In our lives, we go through different challenges. We've got pressures from work, different deadlines. We've got responsibilities at home, responsibilities to our parents, our kids, to the society. To whatever hobbies, interests we have, to the organization as well. I think the key thing to remember is, like Hanuman was able to control everything and focus it to God. Whatever we do, if through Nam Smarana, if through our actions we are able to focus it on God, we will be able to attain God. So the question then becomes to say, okay, why do you think Nam Smarana is the way? Like, why does Nam Smarana make sense? I mean, why is it not reading? Why is it not doing something else? Why is it just not thinking about God? Why is it not sitting in front of a picture of God and thinking and just looking at Him, right? So there's multiple parts of devotion. Nam Smarana is the one that Swami talks about, and a lot of scriptures talk about as the golden path to realizing God. So now imagine seeing a picture of God, right? So you're seeing a picture of God. How many senses have you engaged when you're looking, or how many organs have you engaged when you're looking at a picture of Swami, right? But now imagine that you are singing the name of the Lord. So you're now either just saying Om Sai Ram, you're singing Hari Bhajan Bila Sukh Shanti Nahi, or you're singing a bhajan, Sai Ram, whatever it is, right? So imagine now what's happening inside your body, not the mind part. This is just the body part, right? So as you start saying this thing, your heartbeat probably goes up. So the heart starts pumping more, then the blood circulation increases, the lungs are working harder, the blood's doing the movement around the body, and all of a sudden you don't realize, right? But your entire body system is involved in this in Nam Smarana. So that divine name that we're taking is doing its turns around the body at such a good rhythm, right? And rhythm is linked to Nam Smarana. So you see how as it's doing that, don't you think it's getting purified because we're taking the name of the Lord? Now, that's one system. Now look at your mind. The mind also does the same thing, because when you're thinking about God, when that concept of time capsule, when you fill that capsule with Swami's name, there's no space for anything else, right? You've locked it in with Swami. So if we keep filling more and more capsules with Swami's name, what will happen eventually is that there will not be space for anything else. And the icing on the cake here is that the more you try, the more you do this, the easier it becomes, because your system gets tuned to it, right? It's something that comes naturally. It's something that becomes a habit. So, and Nam Smarana is not complicated. We don't have to go to the mountains for hundreds of years and do tapas. We don't have to do complex things. We don't have to spend a lot of money on buying nice outfits, nice saris, dress up every day and do things. Nam Smarana is anywhere. And if we could see Hanuman, how he obtained God, and there's multiple examples of that. And we saw the story that I shared earlier, where Valmiki was saying the opposite name, Mara, 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 and he could obtain God. That means it's possible for us to do this. So looping back in 2007, the last discourse Swami gave to the young adults, and in that he says, of course, never forget God. And then he says, Nam Smarana is a way to remember God. So let's see what he has in store for us next. I'll hand over to Sister Narina.
Om Shri Sai Ram, dearest embodiments of love. I hope that you are enjoying today's session and you are finding it spiritually uplifting. Our next segment is titled, Keep Your Mind Steady for 11 Seconds. Our mind is no doubt pure, and we should fill it with pure thoughts. It is only by means of purity of mind can we come closer to our Bhagwan. In the current world we live in, we are exposed to pollutants that enter our mind. And this can be in the form of social media, news, work, peer, etc. Our aim is to ensure that we stay away from such pollutants. But how? Through practicing sadhana. In today's busy lifestyle with campus, work, children, many don't have the time to practice sadhana. And many confuse the term sadhana with sitting in a straight posture, confined to the prayer room in meditation for hours. However, real sadhana is keeping your mind steady for 11 seconds. Dearest brothers and sisters, Swami has made it so easy for us to practice our sadhana. Many gurus and sages practice meditation in the Himalayas. One doesn't need to go to the Himalayas for spiritual practices. You can practice the connection with our Divine Lord in the comfort of your own home. And only for 11 seconds. So what is our excuse? We are exposed to so many pollutants, and one would usually take a shower to get rid of such pollutants in their physical body. So why not cleanse our pollutants that's inside our bodies? Consider this. The time to take a shower is usually 15 minutes. For the ladies, if you're washing your hair, maybe 20 minutes. However, to cleanse our inner self, all you need is 11 seconds. Like the water that soaks your body, why not take the time to quench your soul? Today, we are all exposed to the global pandemic of COVID-19, and we have made a daily habit of washing our hands and sanitizing, which approximately takes us 20 seconds to the max. Why not we make a daily habit of connecting with our Divine Lord in this 11 seconds? It takes us 11 seconds to unlock our phone or drink a glass of water. Why not take the 11 seconds to benefit our inner self and allow Swami to see you for 11 seconds? Is it too hard to check in with Swami? All he asks is 11 seconds. As Swami says, if you concentrate on him for 11 seconds, wholeheartedly, and by this, dear devotees, by full faith and devotion, you will be able to see him in physical form. And not only that, he will communicate with you. Now, how blissful is that? However, this is something that we need to practice daily. If we do it with full faith and devotion, Swami will appear before you. Many devotees have experienced this, so why not us, dear devotees? What is our excuse not to practice sadhana and keep our minds steady for 11 seconds? After all, this will ultimately lead us to self-realization and oneness with our divine. Dearest devotees, so let's take a step back. A lesson from today's session. Let us write down our excuses for not practicing such sadhana and hoping that we can make time to connect with Swami daily for 11 seconds. As our beloved Lord always says, time wasted is life wasted. To end this segment, we have a video from one of our Bhagwan's divine discourses on the 20th of October, 2002. Jai Shri Sai Ram.
నిజంగా మీకు చెప్పాలంటే మర్మము ఒక చిన్న విషయాల్లో చెప్పవచ్చు.
Bhagavan will be able to explain to us in a subtle way, in a simple, easy way.
11 seconds మనసు నిలుపుకో.
Hold on, keep your mind steady for 11 seconds.
11 seconds మీరు నిలుపుకుంటే ఆ 11 సెకండ్ లోపలే నీకు తప్ప రియలైజేషన్ వస్తుంది.
If you keep your mind steady in 11 seconds, you will attain liberation.
ఊరికే గడియారం తిరుగుతూ పోతుంటే మెడిటేషన్ రాదు.
But if it goes on moving, rotating as in a wall clock, you will never attain liberation.
కనుక
Therefore,
మీరు అనవసరమైనటువంటి ఒక శ్రమలకు ఓర్చుకోకండి.
don't strain yourself.
బాడీని చాలా శ్రమ పెడుతున్నారు.
You exert and strain yourself a lot.
టైమ్ ఈజ్ గాడ్.
Time is God.
గాడ్ ఈజ్ టైమ్.
God is time.
డోంట్ వేస్ట్ టైం.
Don't waste time.
టైం వేస్ట్ ఈజ్ లైఫ్ వేస్ట్.
Time waste is life waste.
కనుక మీరు టైం కూడా ఏమాత్రం వేస్ట్ చేయకండి.
Never waste time.
ఎప్పుడు కొంచెం టైం చిక్కినా మీకు అప్పుడు స్వామిని తలుచుకోండి.
If you find some time, think immediately of Bhagavan.
అప్పుడు మీకు తప్పక నేను వస్తాను.
And then you will find Bhagavan manifesting in front of you.
మీకు కనిపిస్తాను.
Bhagavan assures that you will be able to see him in physical form if you concentrate deeply.
మీకు కనిపించడమే కాదు, మీతో సంభాషణ కూడా చేస్తాను.
Not only you will be able to see him, Bhagavan says that he will talk to you also.
ఎన్నో జాబులు వస్తున్నాయి, ఎన్నో జాబులు నిన్న నాతో వచ్చి మాట్లాడినాడు స్వామి అని చెబుతుంటారు.
There are many devotees who say that Swami talked to me the other day.
అట్లనే మీరు ఆ విధంగా చేయండి. ఆ యొక్క నమ్మకాన్ని మీరు బుద్ధిగా పెట్టుకోండి. తప్పక మీకు జయం జరుగుతుంది.
If you strengthen this faith deeper and deeper, you will have these experiences.
కనుక మీరు ఏ విధమైనటువంటి శాంతి కోసం, సౌఖ్యం కోసం ట్రై చేయకండి.
Therefore, don't strain yourself, exert yourself in the name of peace.
కనుక మీకు నిజమైనటువంటి యొక్క సత్యాన్ని గుర్తించాలంటే 11 సెకండ్లు చాలు.
If you know the principle of truth correctly, exactly 11 seconds of time is enough.
11 seconds ఆ మనసు దాంట్లో నిలబడి చాలు.
Keep the mind steady, one pointed for 11 seconds.
11 సెకండ్ వచ్చేస్తే 11th సెకండ్ లోపలనే చిక్కుతుంది మీకు ఆ దర్శనం.
You will be able to enjoy, experience the manifestation in the process of 11 seconds, even before the completion of 11 seconds.
కనుక మీరు అనవసరంగా గంటలు కూర్చొని కాళ్ళ నొప్పులు, నడుము నొప్పులు, చేతి నొప్పులు వచ్చి చాలా బాధపడుతున్నారు.
But you sit in the name of meditation hours and hours, the result is only joint pains.
Bhagavan indeed simplifies everything for us, right? So he says, never forget God. Then he says, Nam Smarana. And then he makes it 11 seconds, right? How easy does it get? And back in the day, the sages had to go for thousands of years in the forest. I've seen photos where they'll be standing on one leg, they'll have cobwebs around them, go without food, going without water to be able to have the vision of Lord. And here Bhagavan is himself telling us just 11 seconds, and he keeps repeating how many times in that discourse he keeps saying 11 seconds, 11 seconds. He simplifies it. We don't have to do massive yagnas. We don't have to prepare feasts. We don't have to prepare and walk so far. He just makes it so easy and says 11 seconds, and 11 seconds to get darshan of God. It's the best 11 seconds investment that we can make, right? But it doesn't just happen that, okay, tomorrow I'm going to sit down for 11 seconds and we'll get this. No, it takes a little bit of practice. And it is my own experience that it doesn't take too long when you're tuned in to get the direction, get instructions for your life's most complicated problems from Swami. But it also means that sometimes when life's going good, you need to also be able to tune in for those 11 seconds and have these discussions with God. And remember that monkey mind that is able to go to Parthi, as we talk about the Prashanthi Nilayam, the same monkey mind that goes to Chennai Express. Swami says that mind of ours in 11 seconds, it is able to go through the 11 worlds, right? So there's this different the worlds that are created. It's enough to go around the 11 worlds. And he says, if the mind can do that, the mind certainly has the capacity to have the darshan of the Lord in 11 seconds. So how do you think this works, right? For ordinary people like you and I, how does this thing work? We're not elevated souls. We're not we don't understand spirituality as much. And you say, does it apply to us, or does it apply to people that have seen Swami, interacted with Swami, who are probably more blessed, who have got previous lives blessings on them? So how does this work? The reality is, right, the practicality of it, and from my own experience, Swami is not far away. He's not in Prashanthi Nilayam. He's not anywhere. He is inside our heart, right? Now, he is here. So all we are doing is, in 11 seconds, quietening down. In that 11 seconds, we're taking all the noise and all the distractions out, so we are able to hear him talking to us. Now, you would say, okay, I'm going to quieten down and let's see if Swami speaks. Swami is speaking all the time, right? He's busy commanding your heart, he's commanding your digestive system, he's commanding your brain, he's saying, okay, this is what's coming through. He gives you this gut feel when things are happening. So that voice is constantly working, and without you knowing, it's doing a lot of things. It's telling you stuff. Some we are able to hear, some we are not able to hear. So what this is doing is, it's like your Spotify playlist, right? So add this 11 seconds in your Spotify playlist and say, for 11 seconds in a day, or 11 seconds 3 or 4 times in a day, I'm just going to quieten down, turn off everything else, and listen to this particular track that's going inside here. And let's see what this says. And imagine what would happen if you're able to tap into that, right? That's the voice that has guided some of the world's best inventions. That's the voice that has guided some of the biggest things that have happened in the world. And in my own experience, the World Youth Festival is something that you all will relate to. There are many instances where direction came directly like that in some of the most difficult of situations. But in my own personal life, career choices, decisions with family, decisions on what to do even when challenges presented themselves. These are all decisions that came from here. But it all took me to quieten down. It took me more than 11 seconds sometimes. But I know that when you need something, in 11 seconds, Bhagwan will give you the answer, but you need to try that out. So as sister had said, that this is something that I would like you all, she would like you all to try out, and also write down the excuses. Why would you not, right? Like, how hard is it to take out 11 seconds to do that? So try it out and then see what comes out. And I'm sure there will be beautiful stories that will come out. You do your bit and Bhagwan will do, right? So he says, you take one step, he takes 100. So this is your, that 1 second that you will take out for this. Is something that you're taking. So imagine how much closer he will come. And I assure you that he will come, because in my own life and in the life of so many others, Bhagwan gives that direction. So this is the discourse. Like, it's so simple. There's more things that Swami said. Of course, we haven't covered it here, but we brought it all in and thought we'll share this. We of course didn't want to waste your time as well, so we thought, okay, we'll get words from Swami, make it relevant to you all, so that we don't end up wasting time, wasters life, as Bhagwan has said. An important part of doing any Sai activity is always to think about and reflect on what we have just done. And I thought I'll take the opportunity here and go to the co-presenters and ask them for their reflections. But before I do that, I'd encourage everyone, and this is not only to the young adults, but to all members, to say, whenever we participate in any Sai event or do anything, we should stop and ask ourselves to say, why are we doing this, and how is this brought us closer to Swami? One of the brothers, he was speaking to us, talking to the Australian devotees a couple of months ago, and he mentioned that sometimes in the Sai organization, we get so caught up with the activities that instead, when the moment of death comes, when Swami comes to pick us up, there's a high chance that we're not taking Swami's name. We're busy worried that has the food been prepared, is the sound system all okay, have all the bhajan lists been done, and has the truck left for the Seva project, right? So often we're thinking about all of these things instead of thinking Swami. So we all have to, whenever we get busy with activities, do presentations, do programs, or any initiatives, we've got to take that opportunity back and reflect back on what we were there for. So I'd first ask Sister Aranya on her reflections working on this presentation, and yeah, just her experience. Sis, just a short message from you.
Sairam, brother, yes, definitely. I just last night I was talking to a friend of mine, and I was just saying why why did Swami give me this opportunity to interact with such beautiful minds, first of all, the brothers and the sisters on the team here? And why did he give me the topic of never forget God? I know when we were discussing the topic, you were like, no, let's do the conference because you were there that December. But why did I choose never forget God? And what was this message that Swami was trying to teach me? And I felt like, for me, in this point in time where I'm at the moment, and with exams coming forward, I needed to know, and I needed to remember Swami is always there for me, and I needed to also take my own advice and not forget God in this time, and he's always there for me. So even sharing that experience, I feel like Swami had prompted me to share that experience so that I can reflect on that moment and feel his presence and his love that he has for me. And so taking in this topic of never forget God, I really hold it and cherish it, because in this time, I feel like I can relate to, and I should also remember these points that I'm giving out to the other young adults, that I also need to take it into consideration and never forget God, because he is with me all the time and seated in my heart. Thank you, Sairam.
Thank you, sis. Brother Yasir?
Sorry, bro. Yeah, so my reflection, I think, firstly, has been amazing experience working with all of you, and for Brother Shivendra to think of having the opportunity to involve all of us is also another beautiful aspect of this program. Instead of Brother Shivendra coming and presenting only his perspectives, we've had the opportunity to hear you, and we've had the opportunity to interact and speak all together as a team. So that's been beautiful. I think the main underlying reflection that I could maybe give out is that, we all responsible for our actions, and all our past karmas that we've accumulated over many lifetimes, why we're going to have to face those consequences at some period of time. So why do we do these webinars, and why do we serve in the organization in the first place? And as you've mentioned as well, Brother Shivendra, that this is just an opportunity for us to do good so that we can be happy and lead peaceful lives. And so, yeah, just very grateful to Swami and for the team for allowing me to be a part of this offering. Sarah.
Yeah, thank you, bro. I think that's a very important point. We have to be happy and peaceful ourselves before the world around us can become happy. Very nicely said. Brother Sahil.
Sairam, bro. Thank you for the opportunity as well. I think, for me, when I think back to 2007, given a lot of the content for today's program was pulled from the discourses Swami had given at the time, I think about where I was at that point in time, still in secondary school, still in a work in progress relationship with Swami, if you can put it that way, not knowing what Prashanthi Nadiyam looks like on the inside completely and properly, or the energy and the vibration, So, in being part of this program and session for today, it's made me realize when Swami said, in your room, wherever you are, when you call out to me, when you pray to me or speak to me, that room becomes Prashanthi Nadiyam, and now it's just been an elevated room for me now, whenever I can actually picture Prashanthi Nadiyam, whenever I want to pray to Swami or speak to him. And secondly, in that space, what are some of the practical things I can do every day to feel this happiness or feel this peace? And listening to all the speakers today on the team, simple things like focusing the mind, the namasmarana, and bringing Swami into every activity of my day, has really been revelations for me through this journey. So thank you, brother.
Yeah, thanks, bro. So still work in progress. I think 2007, some of the young adults, if you're 18, you would have been 4 years old when 2007 this course was given. So this was Swami talking to you when you're 4 and preparing you to join the young adults group. Sister Narina?
Sairam. Okay, so I hope to share my experience in 11 seconds, Brother Shivendra. Just kidding. Okay, so thank you so much for the opportunity. I think we are blessed with the opportunity to serve in his divine mission and to be able to work in unity with such wonderful Sai family. I think it has only made my spiritual journey towards self-realization so much more simpler. Working on this presentation has made me go back to the basics in a different light. So how we practice Namasmarana, I can be chanting the Gayatri Mantra whilst dropping off my child at school, always have Swami in all the activities that I carry forth. So it gave me a deeper understanding into what Swami is communicating to us and the tips to translate them into our daily practical life with such ease. It helped me understand Swami's teaching and bolster my determination to walk on the sacred path. And I feel more connected to Swami as I put his teachings into practice in my daily activities. For Swami definitely lives within me. Jai Sai Ram.
Thank you, sis. That's beautifully summarized. So I think it's I won't make my closing remarks right now. I'll hold it for after the question and answers. So I'll hand it over to the team to put the questions. I can see a question on the chat box. So I might just start off with that to say what needs to happen for young adults to have a self-starter mindset instead of just taking leadership instructions from leadership. Look, the relationship between the organizations, leaders, and the young adults is very interesting. And I'd use this event as an example. This is me initiating something and getting the young adults to take that initiative. So what everyone spoke, it wasn't my content. It was content they came up with. And the best way to look at this is taking an example of a plant that's growing, right? Because that's really who we as young adults are. The roots need to be fed with nutrients, but the sun needs to pull. The sun needs to provide that light so that the plant grows towards it. The leadership of the organization is responsible for being the sun and being the nutrients. So if we are able to provide that nourishment, that care, water it, the nutrients, etc. to the young adult group, encourage it and making sure that the roots are strong enough, right? The roots are not getting damaged. There's no one, the person who's mowing the lawn is not coming to cut the tree away, etc. So put a fence around it, protect it. That's the role of the leadership team. At the same time, and I think this part we do really well, that at the same time we need to provide the sun, which is that opportunity, that bright opportunity that the tree wants to go towards. So this platform here, having discussion on this, but putting it in a way which makes us think about it, is something that we need to do. We do not need to do big events. And one thing that I would have shared later on is to say the focus has to be on our centers. So if we can focus on our centers and look at really to see what could we do to enhance the activities of our center, what could we do? And if we're constantly asking that question, I think the young adults would fit in. And if the activity is inspirational, the activity is one that offers the opportunity to grow and connect strongly with Swami, young adults would come in. So I think it's a challenge for the leadership team, but it's also a challenge for the youth to understand that when these opportunities are presented, we don't make excuses, we don't shy away from it, we take it. Because yes, Bhagwan's not there physically to come and tell us, Bhagwan's now using our leaders to tell us these opportunities. So we need to be able to say, maybe this is an instruction from God. We need to convert, maybe this is an instruction from God, to say this is an instruction from God. Let's take and see what we can do it. The mindset shift is, for the young adults here is, so I've addressed the leadership bit. I think for the young adults is, let's stop being in the commentator box. Let's go on the field and play, because that's what we are here for. When Swami said we got to be leaders of tomorrow, that tomorrow has come. So now let's grow up, come on the field, work with our leadership, play on the same team, and let's spread this Sai mission, right? So that's I think where it comes. So hopefully I answered that question, but happy to take more questions, Prasahil.
Thank you, Brother Shivendra. And when we're speaking about the field, I don't think we'll mention anything about South Africa and Australia in the past week. Before we go on to some of Before we move on to some of the questions we received in the week, so thank you to sisters and brothers that submitted through the form. We'll go through that as a start. We just like to invite everyone that does have any questions, you can post them on the chat box, and we will try to get through as many of them if there are for the remaining time of today's session. So, Brother Shivendra, the first question we received this week was, it goes as follows. We know the theory behind being happy and peaceful from Sai literature. Please could you share some ideas on how to practically achieve this in a material world where the 6 enemies of man still control us?
Yeah, I think it's a short answer, and Bhagwan I think covers that in the first part of the discourse, which is try and remove the negativities, multiply the positivities, right? A good way to do that is to reflect. So reflect how your day is, where are you getting stuck, where do the vices come in, and taking some practical steps to address those, right? Now, some of these practical steps we need to remove slowly and gradually. Some of these we have to totally ignore, and some of these have to be stopped straight away. So there's multiple ways of looking at it, but it comes through self-reflection and a genuine effort to remove it. The couple of things that Swami has spoken about later in the discourse, of course, is 11 seconds. So that's a great way of focusing the mind, and really the side effect of that 11 seconds is you get control of the mind. The mind is not controlling you. And I think the moment you do that, the moment you're able to fill your life with Nam Smarana, the other bits start coming through. It's human that we will get distracted. There will be challenges that come on the way. So don't get disappointed, don't get dejected. It's always an opportunity for us to become better. But I think the aspect of filling the mind with good things is what Swami's prescription in this discourse was for that particular topic.
Thank you, bro. Appreciate that. The next question we have asks, how do we seek or receive Swami's advice when going through turmoil in life?
I think it's don't wait for the turmoil to connect with Swami. Seek his guidance when everything's going well as well. It will have 2 things. One is you're in the habit to constantly talk to him, which might mean that you will avoid the turmoil. But when the turmoil comes, it's not extra effort to talk to him. It's just second nature for us to talk to him, right? So you know how when something wrong happens, that moment when you say, "Oh, Swami," right? That Swami thing should be there instead of the 100 other words that are in the dictionary. So train your mind, and when things are good, you don't have to wait for turmoil. And I think that's what this discourse also prescribes. It's not easy getting to that stage. I think we get carried away and we get really drowned when emotions kick in. But I think sometimes just stopping, pausing, thinking what's going on, and then saying, okay, what can I do, will help. So I understand that it's not an easy thing to do, but I think just getting into the habit when things are well is a great way of doing that.
Thank you, bro. The next one we have says, to be happy under all circumstances, we must attain equanimity. What tools can we use to manage the mind in order to attain this equanimity and realize who we truly are? In other words, how do we also maintain the state of happiness?
It's I think it's very individual. It's not something that I can prescribe, right? So it's really your own reflection, seeing what works for you. So for those who have got some particular interests and hobbies, and if cooking gives you joy, then that's a good place to start, and trying to foster that connection with Swami through what you love. If you like sports, then maybe sports is the way you connect with Swami. But if music is your thing, then you connect with music. So whatever is there as the easiest path, try really strengthen that, and then let it filter through into different parts. And I think as we were reflecting on this, I think Yastil and I were talking about those bhajans, and then our conversation drifted to Bollywood songs, right? And say once you really get into the concept of understanding bhajans, you'd be able to see the devotional aspects, or be able to even link some of the Bollywood songs to Swami, and to say, okay, yeah, what if I was singing this song as to express my love or my feelings for Swami, or if it's a song about life, how do I apply that, right? So it just extends through what you love. So I think it's a matter of saying, okay, this is the activity that gives me greatest joy. Now, what can I do? And then recording your feelings and analyzing it a little bit more, and then say, how do I now put it into the other activities that I do, and what are the things that don't work? A good place to do this, and I'm probably digressing a little bit, but it's a good habit to do, is to journal, right? So if you're able to look at your feelings, you're able to record things, have that conversation, make your journal a conversation with God at the end of the day. It's a great place to look back and reflect on your day and answer some questions that allow you to then progress and make tomorrow better. But there's no for young adults in particular, there is no one size fits all, one prescription or one pill that will fix everything. There are a lot of people talking about, you do this, you do this, you do this. It doesn't quite work that way. It's always about self-reflection and really going inward in your own journey to be able to pick that up.
Thank you, bro. Beautifully said. And yeah, we actually don't have any more questions. And I think, taking that in the spirit that Swami guided the content for today, for any questions that people may have come into the session with, and has been answered through the content of today's program. However, there has been lots of positive messages of love and support, and we'd really like to express our gratitude to all our sisters and brothers that made the time to join us today, and for those messages of support, like we mentioned. It's much appreciated. But Brother Shivendra, we'll hand back to you for some of your closing comments. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Sairam.
Thank you, bro. Appreciate the questions. And one thing, just to answer the last question, right? It's the working in the organization is always I think people have to say, okay, yeah, if I'm going to get close to Swami, just diving in inwards, then why do I join the organization? So it's almost, the concept to keep in mind is like Hanuman, right? We've used Hanuman's example. Hanuman had one hand always on the feet of the Lord and one hand serving the community and doing what he needed to do. He never let go the feet of the Lord. As we work on in this I mission, one thing we have to remember is that we need both, right? We need to be holding on to the Swami's feet, and we need to be doing the work in the organization and serving and taking this mission forward. Now, how do we do this, right? And why do we need this? What happens is, as humans, sometimes we get distracted. Sometimes we feel low. Sometimes we feel that connection is not strong enough. So our morale drops, and the grip that's holding the feet weakens. At that point in time, the colleagues that we have in the organization, the friends that we've established, people we work together, they encourage us, because they are the ones who are now clapping harder, and the bhajan is third speed, and they're encouraging us to clap harder. Now our connection builds. So someone sings this beautiful bhajan, which makes us forget all our sorrows and makes us hold these hands a little bit, like hold Swami's feet stronger. So you see how the community is now helping us go inwards. So through that support. Sometimes what also happens is that side is having struggles. The community side of it is having challenges. So at that point in time, what we need is that inward energy, that being able to see things clearly, being able to differentiate, being able to apply love all, serve all, help ever, hurt never. That is what is able to then manage the issues we are seeing on the community side. So you see, we need both to be able to function with that. And remember Hanuman's example always, to say, have one hand on Swami's feet and one hand serving the community. So in terms of closing remarks, the human potential is unimaginable, right? So you all are doing really well, I think, in terms of the Sai mission, in terms of what you're doing in your career. But just imagine if you're able to add Swami and you plug that Swami, that number one, in front of the multiple zeros that you have in your life, and just imagine what it could be. This God of ours, he is the one who's created the entire universe. He's created everything. He rewrites destinies of everyone, right? So this is, our destiny is beyond our imagination. I didn't know what the World Youth Festival would look like. I didn't know there's so many other projects we've been part of. And ask anyone who's done these amazing projects, even the architect who's built the super specialty hospital, he wouldn't have known what he was creating. But when you plug God by your side, the unimaginable becomes a reality. So I urge you all to hold on to his hand, follow his command, and let him take us there. And let him be that number one, right? And give God, in the discourse when we mentioned this particular line, give God prime importance in life. And I think once we can do that, give God prime importance in life, everything just starts coming together. He's got our back. He will see it through. He saw Hanuman through. His tail was on fire. He was trapped. A single-handed person was able to go and find where Mata Sita was and make this safe journey back. So in the complex obstacles, we are not on fire. There's nowhere near it. So I'm pretty sure that he will take care of it. It's been a great joy working with the team that I have worked with. So I really thank Swami for that. And I thank the leaders of the organization in South Africa and the zone as well for giving me this opportunity. And I pray that Swami continues to guide, and bless you all always. And just always remember that Bhagwan's love and blessings is with you always. Saram, everyone.
Om Sai Ram. With that being said, we would like to express our sincere gratitude to our dearest Bhagawan, who is a constant inspiration, guide, and protector, who is our source, path, and goal. We would like to thank Swami for molding us and using us as his divine instruments as we allow his divine love to flow through us all so that we can spread this love and light to all beings. We extend our heartfelt gratitude to Brother Shivendra for being with us today and his wise reminding on how we live peacefully and happy with Swami always by our side. It was indeed an inspiring and motivational session with you. Our thanks to all the facilitators for their efforts and dedication in today's program. Respected elders and fellow young adults, thank you for joining our today's virtual program, especially to our brothers and sisters from abroad, from the UK, Mauritius, India, and so forth. We appreciate your attendance today. May Bhagwan continue to provide each and every one of you with abundant love, love, love. To conclude today's program, let us all offer pranams to our Divine Master. Dearest Swami, please grant all of us the clarity of mind and heart to live your message, to love and serve all. Jai Sai Ram.
स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्य परिपालयन्ता न्यायेन मार्गेण महिषाः गोब्राह्मणेभ्यः शुभमस्तु नित्यम् समस्तलोका सुखिनो भवन्तु 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 समस्त